Hey everybody, welcome in. Thanks so much for joining me on this Wednesday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast here on YouTube. I always love chatting Packers with you guys, and I appreciate all the amazing responses you guys have given me so far. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000 followers before I get to 50 episodes. So if you haven't, make sure to tell a friend, subscribe, do whatever you can. I would greatly appreciate it. But today I'm going to be going over my grades for the offense. I just literally finished them up, and I'll give you a little bit, of a peek behind the curtain here. Every once in a while, I will finish my grades and I will have an oh shit moment because I'll look at them and sometimes they don't always feel like they add up to what I had expected them to. I'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment. So when I finished them up, I had two players that I felt really good about. Corey Linsley and David Bakhtiari, I thought still had, good performances even in the loss. And then there were two players I thought had really poor games, Aaron Rodgers and Robert Tonyan, which I'll get to in more to in just a moment. But I was wondering who was going to be the third highest graded player. I was wondering who was going to be the third lowest graded player. And every once in a while, I'll have those thoughts, and it'll be totally different than what I expected, just as I'm kind of going through and tabulating the scores. How I basically do it is I grade each individual play, I write the scores down, and then I go to the next play and grade everyone on that play. So, by the time I get through 60-some plays, I'm not exactly tracking in my mind of who I thought, who graded how and things like that. And to an extent, I don't want to know. I'm just trying to grade that individual play on that play's merit alone. And then when I tabulate it all together, sometimes I'm surprised, usually I'm not. But my surprise on this one, overall, was the play of the offensive line. I was expecting a really brutal grade for the offensive line when I watched it live. And when I graded it and was watching it as I was grading it, like I said, I thought Bakhtiari and Linsley played well. I didn't have anything super egregious from Turner or Lucas Patrick, but in fact, David Bakhtiari graded as my second highest rated player, Corey Linsley graded as my highest, and Lucas Patrick graded as my third highest. So here I'm looking at these offensive line grades and thinking, all right, did I mess something up? Did I do something wrong? And I never go and look at PFF's grades until I'm done with mine, because I don't want any outside influence on my grades and anything that would potentially skew what I'm thinking. So I go and I check their grades after I finish mine up. Again, just double checking it. Is there something way off that I need to go back and review? And interestingly enough, they had the offensive line graded very well as well. In fact, four of their top 5 rated players, again, they had Bakhtiari ahead of Linsley, and then they had Elgton Jenkins in there, I think is actually their second rated player. I was a little bit lower on him. And then they actually had Lucas Patrick as well as one of their top-rated players. So 4 of their top 5 were all along the offensive line. And this may seem very odd, and again, it even did to me. But the more that I thought back and the more that I went back and reviewed it, it makes sense. I thought David Bakhtiari and Corey Linsley had both very good games while they were in there. So where did all this pressure come from? Why weren't they able to run the football? Well, what's interesting is when you're grading the games and when you're looking at individual plays, take the second interception as a great example of this. That second interception is an awful play. I'd have to go back and look, but I think that play, for me, overall, with the individual grades added up, may have actually been a slight positive. Now, Davante Adams, not a great grade on that individual route, but nothing egregious. It's great coverage by the corner. Rodgers throws it really in only the place that Adams probably has a chance to get it. It's not a great throw, but it's, again, nothing egregious. It deflects, it's intercepted, it's returned down to the 2-yard line. And it's a really negative play. There's a couple really nice blocks on that play by the offensive line and some of the supporting players. And overall, when you tabulated it together, it was like individually from an individual player standpoint, the players on that play graded right around neutral or maybe even a slight positive because of some of the positives on that play. But it's a huge negative play in the game for the Packers. Other times, there will be plays where, David Bakhtiari and Corey Linsley and, Billy Turner and Elgton Jenkins block it up great. And this is just a hypothetical, but one player, maybe Robert Tonyan at tight end or Lucas Patrick or somebody else, will allow a blitz. There was one with Jamal Williams that was a great example of that, where he allows a pressure right off the edge, misses the blitz pickup, something that's very rare for him, and it's a pressure immediately on Aaron Rodgers. The offensive line did their job. You had 4 or 5 players probably grade neutral or in the positive in that play. One player player grade in the negative, the net score is a net positive because, again, more people on that play did their job than didn't. Williams gets a really bad grade on that play, but it's a huge negative play in the game. So you end up with some of these unique situations and scenarios where sometimes really, bad plays don't grade horrible overall. There's other plays where a pass will fall harmlessly incomplete. Rodgers, deep shot to MVS where MVS breaks it up is another great example of this. If it's a harmless incomplete pass at the end of a half, it graded really bad because there wasn't much going on. The receivers didn't get open. MVS was actually open on the play, but the others weren't really open. The offensive line was okay. Rodgers threw a terrible pass. It's a negatively graded play, but on the scheme of things, it's just a harmless incompletion. So you have to take some of those things into effect. And then I also thought, Robert Tonyan was really poor in blocking. Again, he was my second lowest rated player on offense. And I thought he gave up some pressures. John Lovett graded negative as a run blocker in this game. A lot of the pressures, again, some of them were blitz pickups. Aaron Jones had a really bad one. Jamal Williams had a really bad one. Rick Wagner was my third lowest graded player. He had a really tough game when he came in and played left tackle. It was nothing like what he looked like at right tackle earlier in the season. And then again, every once in a while, Billy Turner had a couple bad plays. Patrick had a couple bad plays. Jenkins had a couple bad plays. But a couple bad plays here and there with good games otherwise grades as a neutral or slight positive grade. And, but there's still these big negative plays that took over through the course of the game. So I also thought Rodgers was just not sharp at all in this game, and I don't think it's going to surprise you for me saying that. He missed shots downfield, he missed open receivers, he missed reads pre-snap. There were a couple plays where he's reading right and the player to the left comes wide open. Not sure if he saw something different pre-snap, but it looked like a fairly easy read on a couple of those plays. There's other plays where, he's looking downfield. If he's just kind of taking his easy throws or checkdowns, there's stuff that's there. Just things like that in this game that was, rather frustrating and uncharacteristic of what we've seen out of Aaron Rodgers so far. But to Aaron Rodgers' defense, when you get those pressures in the game, you do start to drop your eyes a little bit, see where things are coming from. But this was one of those games, if you watch, there were a few plays where he easily had pockets to step into or pockets that he could have stayed in, and he tried to do his thing where he was rolling out outside the pocket. A couple of the pressures or sacks were really on him going outside of the pocket when he didn't necessarily always need to. And really, this was just, the game plan wasn't good. I've been massively bullish on Matt LaFleur and how he's performed as a play caller. He's somebody who's adjusted when needed to, getting players on the same page. I thought this was just a poor game, play calling and scheme-wise for Matt LaFleur. I thought he got out-coached in this game. I thought Aaron Rodgers got outplayed in this game and just didn't play his best game. Again, my lowest graded player by far in this game was Aaron Rodgers. I didn't think the running backs were as good at blitz pickup as usual. I thought the tight ends really struggled. The wide receivers, nothing really egregious, but nothing good either. Darius Shepard had the nice, run after the catch on the one play. There were plays where both Devontae Adams and MVS broke open downfield. The play was dead in the water because they couldn't block it up on those specific plays. So you saw a couple plays here and there out of the wide receivers, but overall, just a disjointed effort. I did come away somewhat more positive out of the result when I look back at the grades because it was just uncharacteristic stuff that, again, you haven't seen all year out of this team. Give Tampa Bay some credit unequivocally. I didn't think it was quite as bad as I would have expected it to be, again, for a lot of the reasons that I already discussed. So just kind of to sum things up, my top rated overall player, Corey Linsley, thought he just had another tremendous day. Besides Aaron Rodgers, again, who struggled this game, has still been easily the most impressive player throughout the course of the season so far. Corey Linsley and David Bakhtiari right there, number 2 and number 3, and easily the most consistent. Both of those guys have graded in the positive, well in the positive in all 5 games this year. And then Lucas Patrick, again, I thought he had another really solid game. Nothing spectacular, but for the most part, he did his job as a right guard that, again, came out of nowhere, undrafted free agent, journeyman type of player, kind of just trying to stick on a practice squad, then a roster, swing player inside, and now starter at right guard. Impressed with his season so far, and I actually thought he had a rough game in week 4. I thought he bounced back nicely in this game. Rodgers, again, my lowest graded player. Bobby Tonyan really struggled in blocking in this game. Didn't really get open. Had a couple catches, one semi-nice run after the catch, but nothing really doing for Robert Tonyan in this game, and the blocking is really what tanked his grade in this game. There are a couple plays where he just flat out missed blocks. He got thrown to the ground on one play. Just disappointing for somebody who, for the most part, was playing pretty solid football for the first 4 weeks of the season. And then Rick Wagner, who I think you can give some accident forgiveness here too, was playing right tackle, hasn't played a ton this year, gets thrown in a game where Tampa Bay's teeing off at that point, and they're just pass rush every single play because they don't care if Green Bay runs the football, and he's got to now play left tackle, his opposite side, and he wasn't up to the task. But again, I think you can give some accident forgiveness to Rick Wagner for being thrown into an unfamiliar position in a really bad situation. So those are my final grades. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check out Dusty, Steve, and Sarah on today's episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I'll be right back here tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll have defensive grades done yet or not. My hope is to, but it might be a little bit close. But if not, I'll cover something different and then cover my defensive grades on the next day. But either way, check it out tomorrow. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.